ইন্দ্রিলা ধরো আমি করে নিই। Mandela, I suppose you should start now.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to this webinar organized by Sister Nivedita University and Techno India Group of Institutions. We are here to celebrate the occasion of National Engineers Day, observed throughout the country today, to honor the legacy and contribution of M. Viveswaraya in building of our nation. We take this opportunity to celebrate the achievements of several engineers who've made their mark, not just in India, but worldwide, graduating from our institutes. We're also celebrating budding engineers who've taken up this profession of immense promise and who will take up this profession in the future. The theme today is engineering for a healthy planet, a very crucial topic indeed, as more than ever we are faced with questions of our existence because of the pandemic. We will discuss about green engineering today and about sustainable development and how engineers are the key players in delivering a greener future for us. For today's session on the speaker's hot seat, we have very eminent engineers with years of experience in their domain. We have with us Mr. Anindya Ghosh, Associate Partner, IBM, Mr. Gautam Banerjee, President, Data Science Foundation and MD Business Bio, as well as Mr. Arijit Bhattacharya, Founder and CEO of Virtual Infocom. Their expertise in the fields of emerging technologies, their contribution in taking India ahead in the field of AI, big data, data science is truly commendable. We will get to learn so much from them today. We're extremely grateful to all the speakers for being with us today. To moderate this session, we have Professor Dr. R.T. Goswami, Director of Techno International Newtown with us. Thank you, sir, to you as well for being with us today. Before we begin, I would request our Honorable Vice Chancellor of Sister Nivedita University, Professor Dr. Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, to offer the inaugural address. Sir, over to you. So you're muted. You'll have to unmute yourself. Once more, sir. Yes.
Good evening. Thank you, Indrila. I must thank first Madam Bush, Ina Bush, because she just a couple of days back said, my goodness, we have 15th National Engineers Day. I have to organize this. And so immediately he said, okay, I'm going to contact these eminent engineers. And immediately I really thank the honorable guests who are with us. Gautam Banerjee, Anindya Ghosh, and the others, and definitely Dr. Goswami, who is going to moderate the whole program today. You know, the time, as you mentioned rightly, it is to appreciate the contribution of Mokshangundam Vishweswaraya, the Bharat Ratna awardee, who was born in September 1861 in a village called Mudaneli in Karnataka. You know that he started his career with BA, Bachelor of Arts, from the University of Madras, and then pursued civil engineering at the College of Science in Pune. So that period of time, you know, this particular multidisciplinary approach is still there, but which we lost in the last many years. Last many years, we got so much of very well partitioned domain-wise knowledge that which again we have to break it up, and that's why it is very important also. The other thing which comes to my mind that always this date and the, you know, in this particular area, this is a time of Vishwakarma Puja. So most of the time the 15th is actually coincides with Vishwakarma Puja, but this time it is actually after 2 days, 17th actually. So Vishwakarma is also, we said that he's also god of engineer. Now, this is a day where we have to actually engage with young people and say, if you want to change the world for the better, become an engineer. And there are several reasons. As Indrila mentioned, that this time we are talking about the theme of this year's Engineers Day. Now, engineers and engineering projects is essential for a peaceful world, as it is engineers who will develop and implement the technologies and systems that will progress the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They relate to water, energy, environment, sustainable cities, natural disaster resilience, and other areas. Now, when you talk about this resilience to climate change and to design and develop resilient infrastructure that will withstand the increasing weather-related events. You know that in the last couple of days when we have the thunderstorm, all on a sudden we could see that the city is on water. And not only over here, you know that at the same time, 3 days back, the New York City is underwater. The New York City completely, Manhattan area is completely underwater. So that's a developed country. They have everything over there, best of engineers, but it's underwater. So you can understand the challenge now, and that is why it's very important to celebrate the National Engineers Day with a motto that we have to understand that how we can really fulfill the dream of our Bharat Ratna awardee, Mrs. Saraiya. You know that it was that he actually involved in the developing the Kadavashia Reservoir near Pune to raise the food supply level and storage to the highest levels, installed the Gwalior's Tigra Dam and Mysore's Krishna Raja Sagara Dam, and later of which created one of the largest reservoir in Asia at that time. And while serving as a Diwan of Mysore, he was awarded the Knight in 1915 as a commander of the British Indian Empire by King George V. Though he received Bharat Ratna very early, 1955, but what we could find that he given some sort of directives to the engineers that they are essential for the sustainable economic development to support the growth and development of essential infrastructures such as road, railways, bridge, dams, waste management, water supply, sanitation, energy, digital networks, and whatnot. So today, while celebrating the National Engineering Day, we are very, very looking forward to how to fulfill the 2030 UN agenda for the sustainable development. And thereby, it is our aim, it is our motto. We have to make our next generation really understand what is actually the relevance of this National Engineers Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the inspiring words. I would request Ms. Ina Bose, Director HR, Corporate Communication and Industry Connect, to give her remarks, ma'am.
Thank you, Indrila. Thank you, sir, for bringing the historical aspect of it in front of us. While I pay my homage, my tribute to the person for whom engineering has become so important to us as a career choice, I would like to mention that in our younger days, the term engineering meant the core engineering, electrical, civil, mechanical, and so on. But now those have taken a back seat, and we have got number of avenues under the umbrella of engineering. In fact, I intend to start a series of webinars under the head of engineering for the future. Our future, today's theme is the planet. How are our engineers going to take care of the planet, the sustainability? But apart from that, there are a number of avenues which the future will need engineering to address it, to take care of the various upcoming issues, challenges in front of us. I will not take much time of yours, but before I hand over again to Indira, let me thank especially Mr. Ghosh. Thanks to my colleague Arijit Ghosh, who has introduced us to him. Of course, Gautam is an old friend, long time connect, and same goes for Arijit Bhattacharya. He hasn't joined us yet. He'll take some more time to join. Thank you so much, the speakers, for agreeing at such a short notice to come and join. Mr. Ghosh is from Bangalore. Of course, Gautam Banerjee is from here, Kolkata. Yes, Indira, maybe Dr. Goswami will take over from now.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Let's dive right in. I will just introduce Dr. Professor Ati Goswami, as he's the moderator for the session today. He's a director he's the director of Techno International Newtown, also a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. He completed his PhD in technology from BIT Ranchi in the field of network security, and also has a DLIT from University of Central America. 26 years of experience in the field of academics and research, as well as administration. He's a professor in computer science and engineering, and also worked as the director of a BIT Mesra Kolkata campus since 1995. His research interest is in the field of network security and big data security and analytics. He has guided several students, mentored them, helped them, UG and PG students a lot. He's visiting in several of the renowned institutions of IEEE, CSI, and IPM. He's published several research papers of international repute. He had chaired many national and international conferences, and is the academic and board of governing members of several universities of repute as well. We're extremely lucky that we've managed to, despite his busy schedule, sir has agreed to moderate the session today. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Indira. Thank you. Good evening to each and everyone. Thank you, Professor Arijit Bhattacharya, Vice Chancellor, Sister Nivedita University, for his introduction. And he has already taken some of my point, which I need to be discussed over here in my lecture session. And thanks to all the speaker, the guest over here. I have the pleasure to share one technical session few days back at BNCCI with Mr. Anindya Ghosh and Gautam Banerjee. And that time I could not give them enough time to discuss the matter. 5 minutes was too short. I'll be meeting Mr. Arijit Bhattacharya soon. The topic for the Engineers Day is a very important topic today's, and thanks the organizer, Madam Bose, for selecting this topic, engineering for a healthy planet. Today, the entire day, I was busy with moving from one department to another department, meeting the students for Engineers Day celebration, and to coding club contest, one for the science and club from my own institution. Now, Vijay sir has already said about that, so I'm not going into that. But I touch upon with the Vijay sir as certain point, which the expectation from an engineer's point of view, because and which will be in line with the theme what is being there, the healthy planet. Mr. Sarya MV, which is popularly known, who is popularly known as MV, contributed significantly to the field of engineering and education. That is a blended mixture. We sometimes forget about that things. And He is considered among the greatest nation builders who played a crucial role in constructing dams, reservoirs, and hydro power projects of modern India. And sir has already mentioned about, you can see that it's a long back. The degree is not deciding factor of what you choose and what is mental. There is a BA, then converted into civil engineering. So nowadays, when the education policy is coming up, even NIT Durgapur has started as a major minor concept. Like may have even in the IIT system also, they have a bridge course. Like I am a computer science guy, I may have a inclination towards music, so I can take up that, and that cannot be taken from the bridge course subject from your own core subject, core engineering, where you are actually studying. So even in NIT Durgapur started when the new education policy will give that kind of flexibility. There are other many things are there. And about the MB sir, what you can see, he has designed and patented. Few days back in the BNCC, I said, Mr. Banerjee was talking about the patented. He patented automatic barrier water floodgates. This should be the motto, and this should be there now for the entire student batch, any engineering, that they must have that kind of starting point for the project demonstration. Entrepreneurship thinking may not be the everyone the entrepreneur, maybe an entrepreneur, out of box thinking. Every subject should have a project, and that is very important aspects of this one. Project doesn't mean you hands-on do something, but you should have a kind of a mental hackathon kind of thinking, so that your subject knowledge, theoretical knowledge is mandatory, but unless and until it is converted into analytical thinking, converted into the project thinking, hands-on practice, you cannot be a very good engineer. And nowadays, many people are talking about, I may be is offbeat in that, saying that the basic engineering means the three departments. The engineering is standing on the three pillars like civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. Nowadays, the picture is not very energizer in that way. People are not very, computer science, IT, C, toggles around. But ultimately, we have
I think
Any problem? Any
there's a
problem?
technical
Dr.
glitch.
Goswami has
Was disconnected. We should wait for a few minutes for him to join.
I would suggest
We move it. Do you think we should?
Mandila, let him resume in the mean. There he's here.
extremely sorry, I got disconnected suddenly somehow. Am I audible now?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, it's
you're
okay.
audible.
Sorry. So what I'm continuing with that. So that kind of interdepartmental boundary should be cleared. It should be open up. Mechanical engineering should know the future, and accordingly they should develop this one. So in that light, let us have the speaker who can be more focused on these things on the today's theme. So may I invite the first speaker, Mr. Gautam Banerjee. Sir, if you can say and start your session.
I will take a few minutes to give a brief introduction of Mr. Banerjee. He's a founder and managing director of Business Brio, an ASCOM and CIM merger company focused on analytics and AI. He's an accomplished analytics and data science practitioner with over 1.5 decades of managerial and leadership experience spread across Asia, Europe, the United States, the Middle East, East Africa, and Australia in the operations outsourcing services industry. He's the chair of Big Data Analytics Subcommittee of LTD and 30 committees for artificial intelligence representing India in ISO AISC 42. And he's also the editor of the world's first international assessment standard on big data analytics supported by 24 countries. He has worked in several companies and corporates of repute and in different roles. And he was facilitated by the president of NASSCOM, Mr. R. Chandrasekhar, in 2014 for his contribution in the field of analytics for process and business impact. We're extremely lucky to have him here today. Over to you, Mr. Banerjee, for your deliberation.
Thanks, Onila. Thank you. So, thanks the organizers, and thank you, Professor Parvati Foundation, Professor Goswami, to have set up the context. Thanks, Inadi, for inviting me as well. I did enjoy the other day's interaction when I was joined by Mr. Ghosh, from IBM as well. So glad to see you, Anindo, here again. Yeah, I mean, I think the topic is very, relevant in today's date, that there's a healthy planet, right? So engineering is there, and it's very important and key for the economic development of any country, any nation of the planet. But I think, now I think it's the time where people are speaking about balancing the economic growth with the health of the planet, right? I think, it has not happened in my, father's generation. I don't think that, they actually were into this topic so much. They were like all trying to be engineers and trying to contribute so that the economic growth, the power distribution, he was a power engineer, but I have never seen him saying that, okay, because of the power distribution, because of the power generation, how is it impacting, from a bad perspective to the environment. But then, yes, in the last 20 years or so, we are hearing that, much, much more. I think one of the things that I want to call out here is basically, two things that, Professor, Parvati Chattopadhyay, as well as, Professor Goswami touched upon, is basically the balance, the interdisciplinary thing, because it's on one hand, the technology, whether be it, some science and technology and some physics behind running of an IC engine, who is studying a mechanical engineering or strength of materials for civil engineering, or maybe, from a computational standpoint, some kind of algorithm. End of the day, it's maths, science, physics all together. So on one hand, it's learning those, tools, techniques, methods to, solve a problem, practically to implement a project, whether it's a dam, whether it's a, an algorithm which will, solve, something. And on the other hand, trying and seeing that how it can be good for the human, welfare as well as the planet, right? So it's a balance. And then I think that's where, most of the times as of now, the trend has started to change in the last 5 to 7 years of time. We see that, there is a gap between environmental science as a subject and the computational world, from a technology perspective. But then, there are many courses now, as, someone mentioned, your main paper and your secondary papers, they can actually bridge those kind of gaps. And there are, new, streams coming up, which are trying to integrate these two things, which is very important, right? Coming to my domain, I happen to be a mechanical engineering, student from my bachelor's, but then I moved on and did my master's in systems. And then when I'm working now, for our client, like, the Tata Group, whether it's Tata Metalics or Tisco for that matter, it actually helps. So there is no, conflict of interest. I do understand a metal blast furnace, how it operates. I understand the sinter plant. I, understand the centrifugal casting, how it happens. And then I'm trying to
sound problems there.
Am I audible, or is it a challenge? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, I
No,
think
it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So I think, that amalgamation is needed. Coming back to the core topic of AI, ML, and analytics, most of our work is now there. I'm involved with that. The thing that is happening today from the planet perspective, from the environmental perspective, from the climate change perspective is something which is detection. Now, many a times, if you do not, detect, if you do not see something, you don't understand or realize the importance of it, right? And I will, basically talk about the Montreal Protocol, right? In 1987, the Montreal Protocol was signed to help reduce the ozone, right? Now, the detection of the hole in the ozone layer at that point in time had, for many countries and bodies to sign the Montreal Protocol. So one of the things is that, at times I even seen, now debates, even in Germany, that a group is saying that, okay, climate change is very drastic. Someone is saying, you can ignore that. It's like 1 degree Celsius up in the last, maybe 20 years, and which is hardly anything. But, we need to understand the impact of this 1.5 degrees Celsius or some equivalent Fahrenheit up and what it can cause. So detection, visualizing, that problem, and, some kind of prediction that what can happen 20 years, 50 years down the line. I think it's very important for us to realize that and fix it, because you can't fix what you don't see, right? So I think, from that perspective, a lot of work is happening. I can talk about the Microsoft Azure. Microsoft is a company, they are into, two big initiatives. But Microsoft Azure has got a new offering called as Farm Beats, FARM farm and Beats, right? BEATS, Farm Beats. And Farm Beats actually helps farmers to yield, boost the farm yield, right? And it is basically, targeted towards agriculture, right? And, the Telangana government has also, got, some prototypes and projects using, Microsoft Azure Farm Bits. And recently, Jharkhand has started an initiative supported by the government of using, Farm Bits as well of Microsoft Azure. It uses AI, for the crop yield, right? Microsoft as a company also has an initiative called as AI for Earth. I think it's worth mentioning. It's called as AI for Earth. It's a 5-year program with, almost, $5 million as a grant money. And it started in 2017. And as of now, it has rolled out grants to almost 200 companies across the world. So again, I mean, these are good initiatives. Coming back to the hardcore technology, image cognition, I think I can call out, is one of the technology which is extensively used by the AI world for various activities, right? So the University of Illinois, at the Chicago Computational Population Biolab has tagged zebras, the zebras population for the Kenyan government, because it was a challenge, saying that, okay, whether it's like going up, coming down, it's stagnant, what's the status? And, this university, along with the, the biolab, has actually formally tagged, and counted, you can call it a census, right? For the zebras for the government of Kenya. And this lab has actually tracked and is tracking currently more than 10,000 whales. That's very important. 10,000 whales, right? And when I say it's tracking, that means it's individually tracking each and every whale. So even if a whale dies, it can detect, how, where, which location, it is actually happening. So that's important. Also, what we see is basically, certain kind of algae, which is happening. So algal blooms actually are there in many countries, many continents, which destroy the fresh water. And so detection of that, the prediction of the growth of that, what will be the calamity, 5 years, 10 years down the line, is actually helping, a lot of continents in and around Africa, to basically fight with it, right? There is another initiative called as AI at the ends of the earth. Okay, this initiative, AI at the ends of the earth, is basically to understand, detect, understand, and predict the ice surface decline for the glaciers. So this is a very popular initiative among people who are into environment, environmental, science, environmentalists, activists, everyone. And it is basically, it gives us, if you search, AI at the ends of the earth, you will get so much of information. And they're using different kind of sensors along with AI to even predict, forecast, right? And during that they're using neural network, some kind of models of forecasting, including ARIMA, to do that. So first is detection, then you try to understand that, and then you deploy some algorithms to even forecast it, right? Uh, so I think these are examples of how people are using technology, uh, you know for the world's climate change, for the planet's health, for all the four verticals, biodiversity, water, climate, agriculture, correct? And but what is important for us to understand, it's a very slow process. There are a lot of initiatives, but all these initiatives cumulatively also is actually nothing for the kind of impact that we are seeing. So more has to be done, and time is not there too much. But there is good hope. There's a zero emissions goal by 2050 by European Union. It is tough, it is aspirational, but then people, countries, technologists, big companies, small entrepreneurs, startups, all are into it. European Union, from their, initiative of Horizon 2020, has got, a couple of millions of, euros of grants already, for the zero emission goal, right? And in 2016, in fact, it was month of, I think, September. Yeah. The British House of Commons, British House of Commons Science and Technology, there's a Science and Technology Committee under the British House of Commons. They have issued a report that robotics and artificial intelligence calls for greater ethical research because, look, it can be benevolent. Any kind of technology can be used in a benevolent manner. It can be malevolent as well. So there are, both sides of the story, how you're using it. Because, AI, while we are, keep on boasting about AI, ML, the power of it, these are actually now being used for weapons as well, right? Across the world, for warfare tactics. So, it's up to us how we use it. So I think that's a summary of, what is there in terms of using technology. Remembering, Sir Visvesvaraya during the Engineers Day, who was a pioneer, who's done so many things, for the nation, for the country. And then, with the, new age technologies and tools, what can be done, how can be done for the planet Earth. So I will end my, speech here, and over to you, Wendell. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That really was altogether a different perspective that we saw. So much to learn. Thank you so much. Dr. Goswami, do you want to, sir, so you have to unmute yourself. Ma'am, you have to host him, I guess, because he's rejoined again. So.
Thank you.
Dr. Goswami.
Yes. Actually, I could not unmute. That's why. Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. We have listened to you. The question answer and the questions, I'll come back to the later. Now, Mr. Ghosh, Anindo Ghosh, if you can say on the theme, today's theme.
Sure.
To give a brief introduction to our second speaker today, Mr. Ghosh. He is an engineer with an MBA degree, chemical engineering from IIT BHU and MBA from IIM Kolkata. 24 years of global experience across areas of cognitive science, analytics, data platforms, quantitative research, digital and process excellence. He has published several papers. He has a patent in his name, the method and system for training Watson to learn meeting keywords. He has authored and co-authored several books. He's visiting faculty for several renowned institutions and has speaking invitations from several industry forums. He's truly a man of repute. But his main focus is bringing AI, AA, and digital transformation in schools. That's a rare feat to achieve. And of course, he's an industry advisor as well for Calcutta Business School Industry Institute, Partnership Cell, IIPC. And he's a mentor of change for the Auto Tinkering Labs programs of Niti Aayog. And he's also given several keynote addresses to principals of CBSE schools across India to help bring AI into curricula. We're extremely grateful for him today, and I'm sure his speech will be truly rewarding. So over to you, Mr. Ghosh.
Thank you, Indrita. First of all, thank you for a very kind introduction. Right. In fact, when you were introducing me and you were talking about my chemical engineering in IIT BHU, right? And I suddenly remembered that the hostel which I was in, I had a couple of hostels. One was Vishwesvaraya, our original engineer on which we have this day named, right? The National Engineers Day. And again, I was also in the next hostel, which is Vishwakarma, which is, as per our ancient scriptures, he was probably our first engineer, right? Coming on from there. But that is just an aside. I just kind of remember that. I would actually like to thank Ms. Ina Bose, for inviting me out here. It's a pleasure and an honor. Yeah. So again, as Mr. Gautam Banerjee has said, we were there together in one of the earlier sessions of a few days back. It's good to be back with you again, Gautam. So let me take this subject from, there is a lot of, there are a lot of perspectives that we all have about, right, about sustainable development, green engineering, to basically build a healthy planet. And we have already heard a lot about that. Gautam himself kind of, brought it about. I wanted to bring a couple of things out here. When we talk about health, right, I was actually thinking about this topic. What does health mean for us? So for most of us, right, probably health would ideally mean physical health, that we stay healthy on this planet. But if you all think about the way this world is moving today, the holistic way of thinking, there are multiple aspects of health, okay? There is mental health. There is, of course, the physical health. There is an economic health, right? How well we are doing, doing economically. And then there is social health, right? Of course, there could be other parameters of health, but I'll probably restrict myself, to some of these characteristics of health today. And out of that, I'll probably take out the economic part of the health separate, because it kind of gets into, a lot of economic discussions. But most of the health debates that we, see today, the debates around, how should we build and construct and design systems, but the design and build systems, right? First, they have to be effective. They have to be efficient. All of that is great. But end of the day, they will need to ensure that they do not impact the mental health of the global population, which is 7 billion and counting today, right? Which is an extremely important thing. Unless we can ensure that the mental health of this population is intact, nothing can be sustainable. Of course, mental and physical health are all interlinked, as we all know, right? So there's a physical, part of the health which is which is attached, which is, of course, all these things about reducing carbon footprint, or the emissions, global warming, all of that kind of, come out here. There is another aspect of health, which is social health. Now that's also extremely important, and in fact, Gautam kind of touched upon that a bit. Whenever we are building any system, any system, any product, any service, anything, one of the things that we have to ensure is that the social aspect of health is not compromised. And in fact, Gautam talked about ethics. ethics is a very big, so let me start off from the social health, and then I will move into some use cases of mental health, right, where I want to focus today. So as you see, the human mind can really be manipulated, right, through systems, and they have been, right, over the centuries, over the ages, through systems which are designed for specific purposes. Now, what that does is, in many cases, our mind is not able to think holistically or think impartially, think fairly, right? So there are multiple aspects of ethics, right? You need to be bias-free. You need to, it should actually have fairness, justness into everything that you build. I will take an example, right? And even before I go out there, I will kind of touch upon, Ms. Bose's point that she had mentioned, that engineering today is probably not your just civil engineering or mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, right? Engineering goes beyond. For example, though I'm a chemical engineer, but I've spent most of my life in the area of data engineering and data science. So that is also engineering, because all of that gets integrated with your other engineering subjects, because finally the systems and products that you build is not just a civil engineering product. The roads that you build is just not a civil engineering product. I mean, there are sensors, for example, which you may install out there. Of course, that is IoT. There is data engineering involved out there, right? There is materials engineering involved out there. So I think Professor Chattopadhyay also mentioned that unless multiple disciplines come together, you cannot build the products and systems of tomorrow. Think about a space flight. You cannot build the rocket unless and until you have the materials engineers, you have the fuel engineers, you have you have the mathematicians. So there are multiple disciplines that are involved. And similarly, so when you bring it from space engineering down to engineering on the face of this earth, there are also multiple disciplines have to come together. So think of it from that aspect. Do not think that, this is my area of engineering, which is civil engineering or chemical engineering. So what do I have to do with data engineering, for example? What do you have to do with data science? No, the answer is that everything counts out here. And in fact, as we move forward, what I am seeing in the industry is that the points of meeting of these various disciplines are becoming more and more. And the more we can make this a very seamless experience to build our final products and services, the better off we are. And as these services and products are being built, the additional elements or evaluation parameters of, is this meeting my economic health standards, my mental health standards, my physical health standards, social and moral health standards, all of these are additional dimensions that are being put in as these products are being built. Let me take an example of, a system within a bank, right? You may call it an engineering system. You may call it an AI system, which is integrated, within an engineering system. So in North America, there was this loans, when we take, home loans, right? This home loan approval system that was built. And there were certain criteria which was built into the system which said that if you are a single parent, then the probability of you getting an approved home loan goes down, it's lower. Now, that is well and truly because of economic considerations, because if you're a single parent, many times it means that you are a single earning member, so you may not have the wherewithal to keep repaying the loans. Hence, financial institutions are very wary. They want to make that a guiding principle to say that, okay, if you're a single parent, the probability reduces. But then, think about it. When you look at the demographic divide in North America, you actually found out that most of the single parents are women. Very few are men. And this was a few years back, when the system was being built. So what happened out there was, because of a business decision that was inbuilt into an algorithm which kind of went into a system, the system automatically started creating a bias against the feminine gender, right? Which was probably not the original intention. Now, that would create social ripples, if not today, a few years down the line, right? So anything, any system, any product, any process, which has got the potential to create, social ripples, which could be negative impact on society, there are red flags. That was just one example. Now, you all know about, Cambridge Analytica, Cambridge Analytica, all the furor, which was there in the media about news being, mashed up, the news being, presented in a way which at best bordered on misinformation, at the worst bordered on malified intention, right? So any system in this world which actually start creating that kind of news and has that kind of a negative impact would, in the current scheme or in the future scheme of things, would automatically get filtered out, right? That is the way that the world is moving towards. So keep that lens and keep that filter in mind. It has to be unbiased. It has to be fair. It has to be inclusive of the overall population, right? That is one. Let me move into an aspect of mental health, okay? And, I'm actually fortunate. I work in a company like IBM, which actually gives me a lot of opportunity to work on such projects. So I actually worked on a couple of research projects for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And you may now question, what does that have got to do with green engineering, right? But think about it. Alzheimer's, which is a disorder or a disease of the mind, where you start losing your short-term memory. At times you forget who you are. At times you forget where your house is, who are the people around you, can have devastating, not only personal implications, but family implications and social implications, right? Parkinson's, again, a disorder. It's a nerve disorder which impacts speech, movement. We call it the problems with motor and local functions, right? These have started to become epidemics over time, and that would start impacting society, right? The systems and the diagnostic systems to actually figure out whether somebody has Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, these are all very expensive. The treatment is expensive. You probably cannot keep testing half of the world's population for that. It is not sustainable. So sustainability is one of the criteria of a green planet of the future, right? So research started trying to figure out, okay, can we use artificial intelligence, speech processing, right, to be able to figure out if certain diagnostic systems can be built, which could be early warning signals, even before the medical diagnosis begins. That was where the entire thing started, right? And what came out were AI systems, which started actually looking at the speech patterns. Right now, when, let's say you have Alzheimer's, what happens is, after a point of time, the syllables become longer, you start stammering or lisping, there is a stuttering in the way you say things, gaps increase. Now, if you can build certain AI systems, train them with voice samples of healthy people, the way they talk, and then you kind of train them with voice samples of Alzheimer's people, and also train them at different stages of Alzheimer's. You can figure out the point where, right, there could be an early warning signal that there is, this could potentially be an Alzheimer's patient. And of course, after that, it will go for a medical diagnosis. But then at least whether certain things need early diagnosis, certain patients need early diagnosis or not. These are expensive. So to make it sustainable, AI was being brought in to basically productionize and make it bring it at a mass scale, right? Because the moment you can make diagnostics in the world en masse to be able to filter down to the real set of people or patients or cases that will actually now need to be medically diagnosed, that is where you are achieving the level of sustainable en masse production systems, right? That is what was done. So even in the case of Parkinson's, because of the nervous twitching in the body, speech patterns change, and all of them were captured in these systems. And of course, these AI was then, was built into some, certain products, right, to test out with patients, do these really work? So that is one example. That was on the mental health part of it. Let me talk about a bit of the physical health part of it. We all know that, especially lung diseases are, diametazosin. Tuberculosis is a major killer. We all talk about COVID-19, but how many of us do realize that tuberculosis probably kills more people in the world today, even today, as compared to COVID-19? COVID-19 has been more democratized, but tuberculosis affects one part of the population and keeps on killing people. Africa, many of the third world countries, there are more people who die of TB, right? As compared to, diseases like, COVID-19, which have got more publicity. Malaria, for example, we may have eliminated malaria from certain sections of the population, but many sections, have not. Now, in an economy, let's say India as a country or Africa as a continent, it is impossible, it is near to impossible to screen each and every part of the population, each and every human being for potential malaria cases or potential tuberculosis, right? So then what do you do? And in fact, here again, I was fortunate because I was involved in creation of, again, AI systems, which I'll talk about, which can actually start detecting the initial stages of tuberculosis from chest X-rays. And we have started working on getting into the more complex imaging like CT scans and all. But we started off with chest X-rays. And for malaria, we started off with blood samples, the microscopic images of the blood sample. And we started creating this, the artificial intelligence to be able to say, okay, is this an infected blood sample? Is this an infected chest X-ray? And at what stage of the disease are we in? Now, if that, which is a sustainable way of, and it is not that expensive to kind of build these, into some of your products, can be taken across, let's say, to your tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns, probably villages, then you would actually be able to look at a significant part of the population which goes undiagnosed and untested, right? To say, okay, here is the risky population, here is a not so risky population. So forget about them. So you are efficiently picking up from the population those people who will then need to be screened medically, right, through our medical system. That again is sustainability. So whenever we think of sustainable systems, we should start thinking of those systems that can actually scale, get into a production environment, and with lower cost, right? Now, I just want to give one other example before I would stop for my next speaker. Think about some of these traffic systems that are designed. Let's say the metro, which is designed for some of these large cities. I think every large city in India now has the metro system. Always remember that there is an aspect of greenery involved even in the way the network is designed. You need to design it in such a way that the traveling between two points for any one person, any one passenger, is minimized. So the hub and spoke model of metro systems, anywhere in the world, Singapore, Delhi, Mumbai, of course, each city has got its own intricacies, has to be done in such a way that the average passengers footprint is reduced, right? And that way we reduce the overall carbon footprint. Also, when you design these traffic systems, you should design the feeder, right? The last mile connectivity. So any urban traffic planning system, and these are all come within engineering systems, by the way. Don't think of them as outside of engineering. The feeder systems have to be such that the metro can be used effectively by a large section of the population, right? So when you design your bus transport systems, the metro transport systems, everything will have to kind of follow this particular pattern. So net, what I've observed in having worked in so many years in industry, and especially over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, most of these designs that we get into, whether for individuals or for the population at large, let's say for population within cities, every system we have started thinking, and we actually do that. Is this really going to help my society at large? Will this create discrimination or not? Is there a fairness aspect to it? Is there an inclusiveness aspect to it, which it's actually being thought about in engineering systems nowadays? Mental and physical health, how well can you productionize or scale up in a very economic way the research that is being done in the, for physical health as well as mental health? And I've given you examples. Of course, there are many more, which we can talk about. We will not have this time today. I'm happy to talk about it on another occasion, another forum, some other day. But I hope that this gives all of you a perspective of the real life applications, the real life examples of what we're talking about when we say green, sustainable, healthy planet for the future. That's it. Back to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. Thank you. You have a detailed discussion on different projects, different sustainability part, and how it can be connected, because you said about the only basic engineering what you have studied is not the sufficient enough, definitely for now, because you can excel in any field if you have that inclination, and you need to know the future in that respect. Okay, well, I'll come back to you later on certain points and these things. We can have an open discussion. Before that, next, the last speaker, Mr. Arijit Bhattacharya. So I request Wenderila to kindly introduce him.
Yes, a third speaker today is technologist, angel investor, public speaker, business matchmaking expert, Mr. Arijit Bhattacharya. He's a game programmer, virtual reality specialist, blockchain specialist, and globe trotter, of course. 2 decades of experience in finance and technology. He's a technologist, artist, comic story writer, and superhero creator with a rare combination of finance and digital banking as his background. He's a founder and CEO of Virtual Infocom, India's one of the first game development and deep tech solution companies since 1998. He's a founder of World Leaders Summit, founder of Entrepreneur Face, that helps entrepreneurs to start up their business by helping them from ideation stage to execution to fundraise. His list is endless. In fact, he has so much accolades in his domain, and we're extremely lucky. But I would like to say one thing, that creativity, his field is something that relates to creativity, creating new things, and his games are so good. I've seen some of his Facebook videos about the games that he makes with superheroes, and they're just awesome. They're big, huge, students and youngsters are huge fan of his work. Mr. Bhattacharya, we're so great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the beautiful and lovely introduction. Thank you, Inadi, for inviting me in this forum. So I was actually watching a couple of chat that's going on in the chat box. Even though we have a specific subject line and topic talking about Engineers Day, but when we talk about engineers, usually I love to make any kind of speech and an interactive mode, but because this is Zoom, to answer both of your questions, people who are looking for a job, before I go deep dive into what's coming up into sustainable development. Well, future is not about the certification that you're getting. Future is not about the degree that you are going to get from any kind of industry or any kind of university. Even though you have got best of the best certification, you stood first or second or third, industry doesn't bother actually about your what marks that you have got or from where you are actually getting your degree or diploma or master degree. Industry is bothered about the skill set. The next generation is going to sustain on the skill set only, and that's the only answer. So if you're looking for a job, rather you do opposite things. You ask the industry to find you. How are you going to do that? Just upgrade and uplift yourself. To be very honest, coming back from the industry, which is probably not very highly spoken in the eastern part of India, which is game development or virtual reality, we have been looking for people for so many years. In 2021, if I'm asking you that, do you know how to program games? Do you know any kind of engine? Can you take the load of probably some project? The answer is no. So if the answer is yes, if you're asking for looking for job, I'm the one who can give you the job right away, right now, in this moment. You have the skill set, I'm there to recruit you. So coming back to the point of sustainability, to be very honest, I have been speaking since morning, 6 a.m. onwards from various different countries today itself. And we have been discussing about only one aspect, which is artificial intelligence. When we talk about probably engineers and solving global issues, we are all talking about technological solutions. We are all talking about the high impact things that's going on. Would love to understand your point of view when you talk about sustainability. What do you understand about artificial intelligence? Is it going to snatch your work? Robots will actually take your work and you'll be jobless? Answer is no. Who is going to control all these kind of machines? Who is going to code all these kind of machines? When we talk about IoT, who is going to do all such kind of coding? Let me be very, very practical and probably talk about a couple of my invested portfolio companies, what they are doing and how much job is there in the market. Maybe that will interest a lot of you students. So I'm not going to take a lot of example from various parts of the world, but probably I'll take maybe 6 or 7 example. You will get to know what are the kind of job that is there in the market and how you can grab it and what is the sustainability factor during that. I'm not sure whether you have heard about Parvati Foundation. That's a foundation which actually works on climate change, and it's a big global movement that these guys are doing. These guys are from the western part, but they have been heavily impacted and impressed by our own culture, which is our own Indus Valley culture, Bharatiya culture, and they renamed their English name into Indian name. So Parvati Foundation is actually run by a lady. She's a musician. What she did, she started a movement by giving training to people talking about the global meltdown that's happening in oceans, in Arctic oceans and a couple of other places. Now, how to talk about it, how to go towards people. You know how they are doing it? They are creating virtual reality based movies, giving education to world leaders, to prime ministers, to chief ministers, to change makers, that what's going on in various parts of the world. Because of all those kind of war, because of all those kind of ships that is there nearby that Iceland, probably that's the reason the ice is melting. And how you can solve it? There is an AI-based solution which is giving them the exact real-time data, how to solve, how to change all those kind of aspects. Now, when I'm there as an ambassador, of course, I always love to work. I don't hold position just for nothing. So we are impacting things with 4 different other body who actually create solution on solar energy. So what they are doing, they're changing all the electrical elements inside those small islands. I can go on with the list of those islands who are actually affected by the global meltdown. So when you talk about sustainability, these islands, their ministers, their prime ministers, they are taking a decision that, okay, we're not going to use coal. We are not going to have any kind of heavy industry which requires a lot of natural resource. Rather, they're shifting it into a complete sustainable energy base. So when you're talking about such kind of implementation, I'm not sure how many students are from electronic, electrical, or such kind of courses. There is a huge possibility where you can probably learn and understand how to convert a factory from natural resources segment to a complete sustainable solar panel resources segment. When you are talking about batteries, understand how lithium battery works. Lithium battery is one of the key factor where you're gonna change your car into a complete electronic car mechanism. There, your lithium battery plays a very vital role. And to produce lithium battery, you need a very specific kind of industry segment. So when you are learning anything on engineering, I'll highly recommend you keep in mind what's going on in and across the world. You know how things are evolving in USA. In one of my foundation there, they built a hovercraft mobile cover. So when we talk about mobiles, so let me show you how it works. You all have smartphones, right? Now, this is your normal usual smartphone. I'm using an iPhone, so it doesn't matter if you're using Android, doesn't matter. So you just convert your mobile cover into a hovercraft. What happens if you are physically disabled, if you probably can't see, but you have a voice, it can recognize only your voice itself. It's a patented technology which can understand you as human. And it can detect, understand where you are going, it can follow, and it can hover in and around you, and it doesn't require any kind of external battery. What they have done, they have created the entire case utilizing solar power in a very small chip, which is integrated into the case itself, which gives power to the mobile, plus it hovers the case itself. World is changing, guys. You need to understand how world is changing. I'm not touching upon the MNCs who are actually creating massive work into the sustainability, because my earlier speakers already spoke about it, and that was so well that I really don't need to touch upon that. I'll be touching upon a couple of small things, which is a big change in the world, and a lot of MNCs are actually buying those kind of solutions. Let me take you to Finland, to 2 guys who are actually aged about 72. I'm not sure about your age. At the age of 72, a couple created a solution which is basically a glass which can clean air inside your room. It gives you cooling, it gives you heat at the same time. It requires electricity in a 25% less electricity required, just like, you know, if you replace your AC. AC just gives you a cooling system. It doesn't clean air inside. It doesn't take out the carbon from the room and put in a small box and then you can recycle it. These guys are making such kind of changes. Do you know there is another startup who is actually, they became huge. They raised recently around $250 million. They created a digital bank. When you're talking about AI, when you're talking about technology, when you're talking about coding, you need to understand how the world is evolving. Okay, let me give you a small perspective. We all put money in banks, right? Now in bank, what happens? There are holidays. It may happen, it is a second Saturday or fourth Saturday, half days. Sunday, they don't work. Awesome, great. We are habituated with that. But that's your money. You're putting your money into the bank, and then they are utilizing your money to the industry. The whole economy works like this. But why on earth you're not entitled to work on Sundays? That's your money they're using, and you're not getting the service. That's why there is a system that came up in the world, and the whole world is shaking with that. It's called decentralized system, powered by blockchain. We call it as DeFi. Okay, so all these kind of technologies are there to simplify mankind, and the evolution of mankind is happening in a very rapid stage. You don't need to follow only Elon Musk. You can follow all these people who are making changes. Look at Africa. They have been changing their entire structure for last 7 to 8 years. Do you know during this pandemic how many of their SMEs evolved globally? You need to understand that. Where there is a need, there is a requirement of people. Now, a lot of you are actually asking very simple question. I really don't deny the fact that probably in Bengal, we lack a lot of knowledge, but I would love to ask seriously to you students. You're asking what are the future scope of electronic engineering? Huge scope. What exactly I was talking about for last, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. Do you listen? If not, probably you can have the recorded version and maybe watch it carefully. Okay, now a specific question. Let me take a couple of questions and get back to the speech again. Shomojit Nag, a BTech second year student, what should be the skill set of aspiring game developer? Super. Learn Unity. That's one of the basic free tool that you can get. If you know C++ and you love C++, you want to be a programmer, learn Unreal Engine. If you are a Lua lover, go for CryEngine. If you love probably a different language, which is C#, go for Unity. Easy to learn, easy to access. A lot of tutorials are there in the internet. You don't need to learn from probably an institute. It's a self-teaching and training method. You know what's going on? Okay, let me be very, very honest with you. There are kids who are specializing in such kind of technologies. Forget about engineers. Okay, I'm talking about school students. I'm talking about students who are aged about, around 10, around 11, up to 13, 14. Look at Indian perspective. There are developers in India who are making amazing, cool applications, and they are learning from the internet. And you know what's going on? These guys created a group who are giving free training to other kids from various parts of the world. So you need to understand, if you have a power of internet, you have a communication method, how you are utilizing it. Are you watching movies? Kudos, great. Life is a circle. If you are watching movies, great. In future, probably, I don't know, you need to learn and give a lot of time to upgrade your skill set. Are you utilizing your time at the moment? Then learn a specific technology. You don't need to go for game development or AI or whatever I was talking about. You can learn a very basic thing. How many of you are from the technology background? I guess around 90% to 95%. How many of you can write technical documentation? Can you become a technical writer? There is a huge need. Forget all these codings. Okay. If you are an engineer and you can write technology blog, there is a huge need. Huge need. In entire market, there is a big gap of writers. Technology journalism is the next future. If you are, talking about specific about such kind of industry. If you're talking about probably non-technological work, well, technology is to solve the need of industry. You need to understand that, right? Talking about food chains, talking about FMCG, all these industries are nowadays using technology to simplify their work. So you really don't need to go here and there. Make up your mind. If you really love one language, learn it, master about that language. And there is job in the market. You'll be surprised to know how many jobs are there, right? I know multiple number of engineers who have passion about photography. Do you know what they did? They actually used their engineering knowledge into doing photography, creating amazing vlogs and earning money on their own. Why didn't you do that? When you're talking about sustainability, why didn't you start a movement into your community itself? When you're talking about probably giving food to poor people, why didn't you create a very simple app which will ask people for donation, probably 5 rupees from each person? It can become a huge movement. So engineering is not about, honestly speaking, not about your syllabus. If you have a syllabus, Great, kudos. Can you change the syllabus at this moment? Answer is no. But can you uplift your skill set? Answer is yes. So why bother about whether there is a job or whether there is no job? Why asking people? Make up your mind. If you have a passion of on a very specific thing, go for that. Go for that. Today itself, we have been talking in Singapore, and I was raising a case of one student who was basically a sports person, joined a very high level course because he ranked very high in his sports in his earlier school. And then when he joined that high level school, he couldn't sustain the present education. So why put that sports person into educational segment which is not needed? Rather, you put them into a sports education school. He will rise like anything. Okay, I'll give you a live example of a couple of people. Maybe you can Google them. Just search for Bruce Hoppo Hopkins. That's a guy from Australia, runs a massive movement. He is basically what he does. He is basically a life-saving guard in Australian Sea, and he is a movie star. He is basically a TV star called a program called Bondi Rescue. Now, why I'm taking his name? Lifeguard, TV star, how it is connected with technology. You know what he does? To teach people, to teach kids, he is using virtual reality. You wear a glass in your eyes, and it will actually teach you how to swim, how not to go to the water when situations are bad. So these are the kind of situations that people are creating and utilizing technology. Let's not talk about very high level stuff like probably Microsoft or probably Google. These guys are doing massive work. But if you really want to touch upon the basics, learn such kind of things. Simply put your idea in a very simplistic manner, execute it. Don't stick to your only idea and pitch to people. You're not here to win a business plan competition. If you are here to make your career, execute about your career, I'm sure that you're going to shine like anything. I think I'll stop myself over here because I took, I think, around 20 minutes of time. That was my time limit. So over to the organizers.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya. Thank you very much. Very informative and good suggestions to the students. I quickly pick up 1-2 questions because there is not much question. One question answer you have already given. Another 2 straight question to you. I showed is Go, a BTech first year student. My question is regarding the fact that what is the most popular programming language for game development?
I already answered him in the chat, but for the boys, the answer is C#.
C#, yes. Another, I do not know. This is a question that maybe both of you can answer because I have seen Gautam Banerjee has left. So what is the future?
Shomojit Nag, can I take this question, sir?
What is the future? No, Shomojit Nag, you already said.
No, there is another question from him.
What is the future scope of electrical engineering department? Electrical engineering.
Okay, so electrical engineering, I'm not sure if you're talking about Bengal syllabus, but if you're talking about exactly electrical engineering, there are automated gates which is being produced. There are smart system which is there. There are IoT solution which people are making. So if you are capable of doing that, I'll be more than happy to direct your probably your CV or your group of students to the exact recruiters. Not a problem. I can see another question from Shomojit Nag again. As well, we are aware of the fact that Indian parents are not much fond of the word game. Then why the institutions are not popularizing the courses related to the game development? First and foremost answer, to be very, very honest, there are courses, but unfortunately, these courses are so primitive that this is not actually game development. This is practically a very basic level of probably game art. You are right. Game, when you hear this word, game itself, people feel that it's all about play. But unfortunately, game development is much beyond that. It's not about only play. Rather, defense nowadays are using gaming technology. Automotive industry use gaming technology. Aviation, aircraft maintenance, creation, all of them are creating their solution utilizing gaming technology. You need to reframe the word called game. This is basically game technology rather than gameplay or game art. Now, when we talk about game development, yes, that's a challenge. Parents probably won't understand. Don't bother about it. If you are passionate about that, please go for it. Okay, Now, if you can, maybe if you ask me that what are the future scope, who are the companies who are hiring it, multiple number of companies are there. Just Google. You don't really need to get this answer from me. There are multiple companies who are looking for developers. Even I'm looking for proper game developers. Okay.
Another question, it's from Ankit Mukherjee, but we are not very sure about your branch. You said we passed out student from in the 2017, but still not getting any job till now. But I do not know, we do not know what is your branch of engineering. Any suggestion from Mr. Ghosh or Mr. Bhattacharya? Anything?
Well, Ankit, I'm not sure from which branch you are, but frankly speaking, if you are an engineer, engineers are actually meant for creating solution. If you're looking for a job, would love to understand what is your skill set. Again, I'll go back to my own words. Skill is the only answer. Are you good at programming language? Then let's identify which language we are talking about. Is it the good old C++? Then I fear there is a job in the market. Is it the latest generation technology that you're talking about? Are you good in Python? Probably that can lead you towards AI. I'm not sure about the specific question, so I'm unable to answer directly.
Dr. Goswami,
Yes.
We will be circulating a feedback form to all the participants by tomorrow.
Okay.
Maybe they can raise their questions if they have many more questions, which we can forward it to Mr. Bhattacharya or Mr. Ghosh. Or
Right, even Mr. Gautam Bhattacharya, right.
Yeah.
I'll take and then I'll go back to Mr. Ghosh.
Arijit has given his URL there. So maybe.
Fine. Mr. Bhattacharya, this is I'm asking to you. Somebody wrote about that I did my MA in English or whatever. So how this your gaming platform that can be help them to getting job or that kind of things?
Sir, let me reframe what all I do. Probably that will help all the other dignitary panelists and the students. So of course, I run a game development studio. Apart from that, I run a investment banking company, which probably you have heard about, Entrepreneur Phase. And I run another company based out of Australia, Sydney, called Avenue Global, with two of my other partners, which is again a fundraising platform. I run an acceleration program based in Dubai. That's basically legally registered over there. Of course, I run a funding platform, and of course, I run a business platform. So coming back to the question of English in MA, I am not bothered about your MA or your BA. If you can create and write content, if you are illiterate according to our education system, but if you can write great content, SEO-centric and user-friendly, people can read, feel free to connect. There is a URL. Hop in over there, put your CV, we'll be happy to check your skill set.
So I suppose Vishwajit Mondal, you got your answer. And now I just the last question, then I wrap up the things. I'll give it to Indrila to wrap up. Question to Mr. Ghosh. This is my, whatever the discussion was going on. Let me say this thing because what is the expectation from the industry perspective? You said about that expectation from the fresh graduate in terms of the engineering. I'm talking about the societal part, the academical part, or whatever the. Another question, because I mentioned about one thing I mentioned that Mr. Gautam Banerjee in his speech said he touched upon, like, and I know that Telangana government, they have developed a project concept. They picked up the very good brain from MITs or other places, those who are from Tamil Nadu and the Telangana, this thing, and they have introduced them and engaged them to the project, which has a direct connection with the farmer and that kind of rural areas, like crops destroyed by the different kind of insect. They find out the insect characteristics, then did the pattern recognition AI concept, and then they have developed the FAMTOFs also, gave it to the farmers so that they have introduced their new laptop kind of things, even to know the study. Another, they have in Telangana, due to this heat, huge heat in summer, many people do not know what is the temperature fluctuation. They went to the field and the maximum number of death cases was there. There also some kind of prediction model is being introduced. So looking into this today's context of today's discussion context, so what kind of blending mixture of engineering, because you are from chemical engineering and you have changed your these things, you are now working in the field of data science. So what is actually they require? Because all the courses, like we have the orthodox kind of systems everywhere. So these are what kind of blending major minor, as I said, can be blended so that their employability will enhance, even they can work good and in the industry perspective also, you can be also very benefited in that way.
That's an interesting question, Dr. Goswami, because well, the blending will probably depend a lot on, what is the final area of work that they actually select. But let me try and answer that question more from my area, my field, because of course, I can talk to that, in a more confident way because I've seen that happen. See, one of the things is, if I just purely just talk about the field or area of data science for now, I'm just restricting myself to that. Right?
Okay.
Of course, if we are looking at the skill set of mostly the data engineers, right, or the programmers and the coders, right, it doesn't matter, as Mr. Bhattacharya said. I mean, as long as you can really code, you can program, you understand the concepts, you are there. But then there is something which goes beyond, right, where the use of mathematics, the use and the understanding of systems, storage, data at the machine level, right? That becomes important, right? So if we are going to create something innovative, you're going to think about something which is very different. And I will give you an example. And just to make you understand, or make the audience understand, what I'm talking about here. There was in IBM, we actually worked on for a very large retailer in South Korea. Okay. There, the problem was that it was a recommendation system. Recommendation systems, as we all know, are one of the most complex systems in the world. Okay. This system actually used deep learning to solve the challenge of what should I recommend to my shopper. Okay. On the face of it, if you just look at the concept part of it, well, any statistical modeler who comes from the ISI could have solved it. From a programming part of it, anybody who's a programmer could have solved it. But the challenge that we faced out there was this needed significant computation power, and we didn't have that amount of computation power. So was there an innovative mechanism, an innovative way that you could reduce the problem from a very large problem requiring significant amount of data through a funnel using collaborative filtering techniques, right? Who was the person who, or rather, what was the skill sets, that was needed to be able to do that? So you needed folks who really understood the mathematics behind doing that, which a programmer would not be able to do. You needed some, the mathematician, because there you would not actually get the business consultant who translated the business problem and conceptually translated it from the business side to what was needed from a technology angle. So there was a gap out there, and then that system had to be put into production, right? So then the idea was, did you have ML ops engineers or I mean not DevOps but mostly ML ops engineers who can keep on refreshing the models? Now let me come back to your question and the intermixing of skill sets. In today's day and age, to solve a problem, if I were to just build a model, programming helps, conceptually understanding how to build the model helps. But if I were to really put something into a production environment, and which is becoming the challenge of tomorrow, Because see, what is happening is most of these hyperscalers, what I mean by hyperscalers, the Azures, the AWSs of the world, right? They have started building in applications which make it very easy. The programming is also, to an extent, a lot of it is kind of being taken care of to an extent. Again, of course, we definitely need good programmers, but there are certain concepts, there's a certain level of abstraction to which they have been able to bring the programming of today. What is becoming important, and this is my experience of seeing this around, is if I build a system, can I put it into a production environment? Can I make it run? Because the biggest challenge which most companies face is not the build of the algorithm, but making it run in a production environment with their real-time data, right? And then keep on refreshing those models over time. So in the future, we would definitely need skill sets which can also do that, which is helping put things into a scalable model. Scalability is something that we talk significantly in IBM today, and I'm pretty sure they talk about it in most of the other ITES organizations, right? Because that is what the clients really want as of today. So very long-winded answer. I just wanted to give us a feel for what are the various aspects that go into solving a problem right from the scratch to putting it into a production environment. Putting it into production and scaling is not a simple problem. And that is becoming one of the challenges of tomorrow. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So there are many questions, maybe once you open up, because the many questions will come in. So as madam, you said that you will distributing the feedback. So to all participants, if you have any question further, and if any question being unanswered, so we'll definitely take back your questions and give it to back. I offer to, before I give it to the Indrila to finish up, just on a concluding remark, let me share one thing, say something. It is in today's context, it is indispensable for engineers to strike a fine balance between safety, strength, and sustainability aspects in any development, as any construction without sustainability and rationality is regressive and remorseful. So engineers steer technology advancement and foster innovation to achieve global par excellence, and engineers must profoundly leverage new technologies to detect the impact and risks backed by research and solution to make the development viable and suitable. With this, my concluding note, over to Indrila for the rest of the program. Thank you. Thank you, all the speakers. Thank you very much, Mr. Ghosh and Mr. Bhattacharya.
Thank you so much. What a session. What an engrossing and enriching session. Truly, all the speakers and Dr. Goswami and everybody, what a session. If I'm not from the tech background, but after this session, I myself, I want to pursue something in tech. I've been so inspired myself. I think Professor Chattopadhyay would like to say something, and then over to you. Ma'am, sir, you're muted. Sir, you're muted.
One particular person who actually attended, Vishwajit Pal, just check the credential. Most probably we have to take care of that particular person. Okay?
Okay, sir. Okay, absolutely. So, ma'am, do you want to maybe?
Yes, Indrila, I don't have words to say anything after the two speakers, what they have said. What I've understood is for the students, and also especially the future students, the aspirants, engineering and technology, vis-a-vis technology engineering, is needed. Anything from healthcare to entertainment to finance, everywhere. The other day, on a lighter note, a very senior person just mentioned that yes, technology is even required in the boti and churi that you use to chop your vegetables. Yes, of course. So technology is required everywhere. Engineering, be that electrical or electronics or civil or whatever, every domain of engineering is required across sectors. Mr. Ghosh, thank you so much. Arijit, তোমাকে thanks দিয়ে ছোট করা হবে. always daken mathay tumi asho. But to both of you, my earnest request is, hopefully we'll be having a vibrant university again with students fluttering there. So we need the two of you, one by one, to come and visit our campus, address the students, have a physical face-to-face interaction with them, which I'm sure will be very, very helpful for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.